Hey artists, today you will be inspired by the artist Grant Haffner and his awesome landscape artworks as you are creating your own road artworks and working on making things look closer and further away. Including a horizon line is the first step to show space in a landscape artwork. This separates the sky from the land. Your horizon line can go straight or it can be bumpy and curvy. It's up to you. Then when you start to add the road, you're going to make a dot at the horizon line called the vanishing point. The two lines for your road will meet at the vanishing point because your road will look smaller when it's going further away towards the horizon line. Two diagonal lines will be drawn from the bottom of your paper to the vanishing point. The diagonal line should start further away towards the bottom of your paper because that's where the road is bigger, seems bigger, and is closer to you. There are other ways to draw the road curvy, bigger or smaller, or in other directions that you can get from your worksheet. You may start with using a pencil if you would like to. I would start by drawing your horizon line and vanishing point where your diagonal lines for your road will meet. Those diagonal lines will get bigger as you get closer to the bottom of your paper. So I sketched that in with a pencil. I also drew in where I would like to have a bright spot for a sun using a tracer. Next, I'll grab my India ink and go over these lines. So this is my horizon line. I'm going over with my India ink and then my two diagonal lines going back to the vanishing point to create my road. We can all have different sizes and shapes of roads. Yours does not have to be exactly the same as mine, but India ink is a great way to make a nice dark road over top of an awesome colorful background. It covers it really nicely. Just remember when you make your road, the closer to the bottom, the road should be wider, and as you get closer to the horizon line, the road should be getting skinnier because it's further away. Hopefully you'll use your sheets to guide you in drawing that road to make it look a little bit more realistic. You may use your India ink to outline and draw anything that you would like. I decided to wait to outline my sun and grab some oil pastels. If you use heavy pressure with oil pastels, you should be able to color over the colors that you have. Now, I used a pencil, so then I couldn't color over the pencil because I wanted to use a light color. Now, kind of like Grant Haffner, the artist that we're learning about, I want to use some oil pastels to make some lines alongside my road. So that kind of looks like the sides of the road there that I put in with gray. And I will continue to add more details using oil pastels. I can make it look like grass, or I can add designs, again like Grant Haffner, who added a lot of line work into his artwork. So I'm making some horizontal and vertical lines to kind of make it like the grass is growing and that there are hills and textures in my artwork using my oil pastels. Then I'm going to go back and finish outlining with black India ink, being careful to keep my paintbrush on its tippy toes and be careful with this very permanent ink to outline things. If my ink on my road is dry, I can use an oil pastel over top of it to make lines or other things on my road. And if you want to add extra details and designs alongside your road or in your sky, you are welcome to do that with India ink. If something is going to be really small, you're also welcome to use a Sharpie and then oil pastels to add color over the tops of your backgrounds. This second example I'm going to give you has my horizon line already kind of made by the way that my squeegee works. So I'm just outlining where the white and the colors meet, and these shapes reminded me of mountains, so I'm just going to have a very mountainy horizon line and still include a road. I'm using my India ink on its tippy toes. I did not have to use a pencil just because those lines were kind of already created. I am going to extend my mountains to make them look a little bit more realistic and maybe even add in some shading. I am going to use a pencil to make my road look like it's coming from behind a mountain. Notice how it went from really teeny tiny back by those mountains and got a lot wider as I got closer to the front. And then I'm going to carefully fill it in with my India ink, making sure to fill in all the white spaces. Remembering that my India ink is permanent, so I want to be careful with how I use that. Next, I'm going to stick with my India ink to do some shading on the sides of the mountains where the sun would not be reaching. You could also do this with another drawing material like a colored pencil, a regular pencil, a crayon, or an oil pastel to add details, but I'm just using very little amounts of India ink to do the shading and add in some like snow tops as details, and keeping the bottom part of my artwork pretty simple, but just kind of being very light with the way that I use the India ink and trying to add some extra little drawing details to make this more realistic. Adding thicker lines with my India ink is also another way to make this look more three-dimensional. I made one very last road, creating my horizon line with India ink. Notice how it is bumpy. My road is a little bit more curvy and wider, so because I have a lot of black to fill in, I decided to get a bigger paintbrush to fill in my road with India ink. If you need to do this, just ask me for that bigger brush. Now I'm going to be a little bit more colorful with my line work because I looked at some of the art of Grant Haffner and he uses some awesome bright colors. So I decided to grab some neon oil pastels this time to add in some lines and designs to surround my road. This made me think of how I want my road to creativity to be bright and different. So think about what your road to creativity means to you. One other thing I'm doing is taking an oil pastel on its side and just filling in my background because I had some white spaces left in my sky. I'm adding lots of different directions of lines and pushing really hard so that it covers the color behind it. Now it is time for you to create. Make sure to start with a horizon line and a vanishing point. Make sure your road goes from big at the bottom of your paper to small towards the horizon line. Have an awesome time creating today. I can't wait to see what you make.